World's most terrifying dictator. This label is often attached to the leader of North Korea, a nation shrouded in secrecy and fear. But what does it mean to live under such a regime? How does Kim Jong-un maintain his power? And what does daily life look like for the average North Korean citizen? The very thought can be suffocating, a glimpse into a world where freedom is an illusion, and the state controls every aspect of existence. The North Korean government exerts absolute control, dictating everything from residence and occupation to education, clothing, and entertainment. Your clothes, your hairstyle, the movies you watch, all are preordained by the state. Even your phone isn't private. Its operating system can take random screenshots, transmitting them directly to the authorities, a constant digital surveillance, and the consequences for disobedience are severe. The law of guilt by association means punishment can extend across generations. A crime committed by one person can lead to the imprisonment and suffering of their children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. This system breeds distrust, even within families. Siblings, parents, and children live in fear, unable to confide in one another. Yet despite this oppressive atmosphere, cracks are beginning to appear in Kim Jong-un's iron grip. A silent revolution is underway, surprisingly led by the women of North Korea. In 1981, a pregnant woman was imprisoned in North Korea's notorious political prison Camp 14. She gave birth behind bars, naming her son Shin Dong-hyuk. His story is a chilling example of the regime's brutality. North Korea's policy of guilt by association meant Shin was born into imprisonment because his family was deemed impure due to a political crime committed by a relative. He spent his childhood in horrific conditions, surviving on meager rations of corn porridge, supplemented by grass and rodents. Camp 14 housed approximately 20,000 prisoners. The rules were simple and brutal. Attempted escape meant instant death. Failure to report an escape plan also resulted in execution. At the age of 13, Shin overheard his mother and brother planning an escape. Driven by hunger and a naive hope for extra food, he informed the guards. The consequences were devastating. He was forced to witness the public execution of his mother and brother. The trauma was compounded by 6 months of relentless torture. In 2005, at the age of 23, Shin Dong-hyuk finally escaped. He fled North Korea, crossing into China, and eventually reaching South Korea. His story became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a powerful indictment of the North Korean regime. He became a human rights advocate, his voice reaching the United Nations, and his story was immortalized in the book Escape from Camp 14. Shin's description of the camp is stark. In the Bible, we read about heaven and hell. When in hell, souls have to live amongst the flames. That's what the prison camp was like. Shin's story, along with accounts from other survivors, provides a harrowing glimpse into daily life in North Korea, one of the world's most isolated and repressive nations. With a population of around 25 million, North Korea sits just above South Korea on the world map. Its western border is shared with China. Satellite imagery at night reveals a striking contrast. China and South Korea blaze with light, while North Korea remains a dark void, a visual representation of its isolation and economic struggles. This darkness is not merely symbolic. Many North Koreans live without reliable electricity, their lives dictated by the setting sun. In the 1990s, a devastating famine swept across the nation, a man-made catastrophe that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions. The desperation was so profound that people resorted to hunting frogs for survival. Ironically, North Korea was once more prosperous than its southern neighbor. In the 1980s, its per capita GDP surpassed both India and China. The state provided free healthcare, education, housing, heating, and transportation. Between 1950 and 1980, North Korea's GDP grew at an impressive rate. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s dealt a crippling blow to the North Korean economy. The USSR had been a crucial provider of cheap oil and food. Its demise left North Korea vulnerable. Power stations shut down, blackouts became commonplace, and starvation spread. The United States offered aid in exchange for the dismantling of North Korea's nuclear weapons program, but the regime refused. This led to international isolation and sanctions. A devastating flood in 1995 further exacerbated the crisis. The North Korean government, instead of prioritizing the needs of its people, focused on concealing the extent of the suffering. The capital, Pyongyang, was presented as a showcase of socialist success. While outside the city, the situation was dire. People in rural areas starved to death. Families were torn apart by the desperate struggle for survival. As Andrew Natsios describes in his book, The Great North Korean Famine, some families even resorted to letting their elderly relatives starve to death so that younger members could survive. Grandparents chose to starve so their children could live. This tragedy unfolded within the context of a totalitarian dictatorship. Following World War II, the Korean peninsula, previously under Japanese occupation, was divided. North Korea fell under the influence of the Soviet Union, while South Korea aligned with the United States. This division mirrored the post-war division of Germany. North Korea adopted communist ideology, and Kim Il-sung, a guerrilla leader who had fought against the Japanese, became the country's first supreme leader. Since then, the Kim family has maintained an iron grip on power. The regime is more accurately described as a family-led dictatorship, its primary goal to perpetuate the Kim dynasty. The government controls every aspect of its citizens' lives. Where they live, what they do, what they study, all is predetermined by the state. Even the media they consume, the places they travel, and their personal appearance are subject to strict regulation. Education is free and mandatory, but the quality is questionable. Teachers often demand bribes, leaving those without resources at a disadvantage. The path to higher education and employment is often determined by family background and connections. After college, men face compulsory military service, which can last for up to 10 years. While parliamentary elections are held every 5 years, they are a mere formality. Only candidates from the ruling Workers' Party are allowed to run, and voting against the party is considered an act of treason. The government uses these elections as a form of census and a tool for social control. The pressure to conform is immense. Even personal appearance is policed. The government dictates approved hairstyles and clothing. Blue jeans, ripped jeans, skinny jeans, and branded clothing are banned, deemed to be symbols of Western culture. Dyeing hair is also prohibited. A fashion police enforces these rules, patrolling the streets and even cutting the clothes of those deemed to be in violation. The regime views fashion as a cultural invasion, fearing that exposure to Western lifestyles will undermine its authority. The control extends to movement. Citizens cannot travel within the country without government permission, and international travel is even more restricted. Unauthorized travel abroad is considered treason, punishable by imprisonment, torture, and even death for entire families. The COVID-19 pandemic saw the regime implement a shoot-on-sight policy for anyone attempting to cross the border, resulting in numerous deaths. Entertainment is also heavily censored. Foreign films and television shows are banned. Only state-controlled media is available, filled with propaganda and praise for the regime. Watching or distributing foreign media can result in severe punishment, including imprisonment and even public execution. Despite the risks, smuggled South Korean dramas and movies are popular on the black market. The internet is severely restricted. Access requires government permission, and even then, users are monitored by librarians. An internal intranet provides a limited and heavily censored version of the internet. Social media is non-existent. Smartphones are also heavily censored. International calls are blocked. The operating system randomly takes screenshots, sending them to the government. Software coding ensures only government-approved content is displayed. There's no app store. Apps must be obtained from physical stores. Religion is also suppressed. North Korea is officially atheist. Practicing or preaching any religion is punishable by death. Christians are particularly targeted, seen as being influenced by America. Thousands are imprisoned in political prison camps and subjected to torture. Public executions, like the case of Ri Hyun-ok, who was executed for distributing the Bible, serve as chilling reminders of the regime's intolerance. The Kim family has become a cult of personality, bordering on a state religion. Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are worshipped like gods. Their images and statues are ubiquitous, present in every home, office, school, and public place. The secret police conduct regular checks, and failing to display these images can lead to prosecution. People are expected to protect these images even at the risk of their own lives. In one instance, a woman who prioritized saving her children from a burning house over protecting the portraits of the leaders faced investigation, and her children were denied medical care. The economic situation for ordinary North Koreans is bleak. A large majority of the population struggles to afford basic necessities like food, clean water, education, and health care. Most homes lack basic appliances. Men are assigned government jobs, but their salaries are meager, barely enough to buy a few kilograms of corn. Many families rely on women, who are not subject to the same job assignments, to earn money through local markets called Yangmadang. These markets have become a vital source of income, providing everything from food and medicine to smuggled foreign media. These markets have also become hubs of information, exposing people to the outside world and fostering discontent with the regime. North Korean society is stratified based on political loyalty, a system known as songbun. Citizens are categorized as core, loyalists, wavering, suspects, and hostile, enemies of the state. Songbun dictates everything from where people live and work to their access to food, healthcare, and education. Even marriages are influenced by songbun. Those deemed hostile are often barred from living near Pyongyang, the capital city. Forced labor is another pervasive problem. People are compelled to work long hours in various sectors, from construction and mining to agriculture and factories. The regime's economy relies heavily on this forced labor, particularly from those imprisoned in detention centers and political prison camps. The conditions in these camps are brutal. Overcrowding, starvation, and physical abuse are rampant. Prisoners often resort to desperate measures to survive, consuming grass, rodents, and even animal fodder. Escape attempts are rare and often fatal. At the heart of the regime's control is the secret police. This shadowy organization is responsible for disappearances, torture, and the operation of the political prison camps. Its agents are ubiquitous, fostering an atmosphere of fear and distrust. The secret police divides communities into groups, encouraging neighbors to spy on one another. The organization is so secretive that even its leaders are unknown to the public. Several factors have allowed this oppressive regime to endure for over 75 years. First, the pervasive cruelty. The threat of severe punishment, including death, for even minor transgressions, keeps the population in a state of constant fear. Second, the songbun system divides society, rewarding loyalty and punishing dissent. Third, relentless propaganda. From birth, North Koreans are bombarded with stories of the Kim family's divine leadership, creating a cult of personality that borders on religious fervor. They are told countless fabricated stories of the leader's greatness, from learning to shoot at age 3 to possessing supernatural abilities. The news they consume is carefully curated propaganda, portraying the outside world as a place of chaos and suffering, while North Korea is presented as a paradise under the Kim dynasty. However, there are signs that the regime's grip is weakening. The rise of the Jangmadang markets has empowered women and exposed people to outside information. These markets, initially suppressed by the government, have become essential to the North Korean economy, demonstrating the growing power of the people. Even a currency revaluation attempt by the government failed due to public resistance. The growing influence of China, particularly under President Xi Jinping, presents both a challenge and an opportunity. China uses North Korea as a buffer against the US and South Korea, but is also concerned about the regime's human rights abuses, which are frequently criticized by the UN. China profits from the continued rule of Kim Jong-un, even with these concerns. Finally, defections are on the rise. Despite the dangers, more North Koreans are escaping, seeking freedom and a better life in South Korea. The number of successful escapes has increased significantly since 2018. The 75-year-old dictatorship will not last forever. Even Kim Jong-un cannot prevent the inevitable. The forces of change are at work, slowly but surely eroding the foundations of this oppressive regime. The hope for a brighter future for the North Korean people rests on the courage of those who dare to challenge the status quo and the growing awareness of the world. The day of reckoning may still be distant, but it is coming.